We will prove that All Might will get his power back and why he made the power stockpiling quirk, which All for One gave his little brother, his very own quirk. This is important as Eri is able to rewind human genetics and thereby restore quirk factors that would allow All Might to get the power stockpiling quirk back without getting one for all. We prove this by showing you moments in the manga that you may have overlooked, and then we connect all the points together, which then lead to the result at the end of this video. Also, only a small percentage of the people who watch our videos are actually subscribed, so if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing. Please enjoy this video, let's go! To prove why All Might can get his quirk back if Eri tries to rewind his body, we have to show that the quirk All Might will get will not be one for all, but a quirk that really belongs to All Might and which he could use during the time he was the user of one for all. But how can this be possible, since we already know that All Might, just like Deku, was born without an initial quirk? We are going to prove that All Might actually has his own initial quirk, but to understand this we need to explain the concept of quirks, as it is often misunderstood. Quirks are anomalies within the human race that serve as extensions of a person's bodily functions, and therefore they are referred to as the next stage in evolution. A quirk is innate to a body and can also be described as individuality. This is because a quirk works individually for each and every person. Although there are quirks that have the same ability, each individual quirk is unique because of the quirk factor, also known as plus alpha. The quirk factor refers to the collective physical and genetic traits that make up a person. This includes the primary quirk powers as well as any biological mechanisms that enables this primary power to function properly. So certain parts of the body are part of the quirk factor. And so because of the quirk factor, a quirk's user's body has natural adaptations to protect itself from any harm that the quirk could do to them without these natural defenses. So if someone is born with no quirk, that person doesn't have a quirk factor. Easy. This means that Deku has no quirk factor, and thus his body is not protected from one for all, which leads to the typical constant injuries when Deku uses one for all. But for some reason, All Might didn't have it that difficult getting his body used to the same abilities. This is the first indication that All Might may have developed his own quirk factor by the time he received one for all. There are many indications for this, which we will explain in a moment. This is going to be very important because if All Might has developed his own quirk factor, then it has something to do with the super strength that he used when he was the user of one for all, which is part of one for all, and which is most likely the quirk that All for One gave to his little brother, the so-called power stockpiling quirk. Because of the power stockpiling quirk, All Might was able to use tremendous physical strength made possible by all previous one-for-all users. That All Might has developed his own quirk factor is important because Eri can only restore quirks from people if those people have had an initial quirk factor, such as Mirio Togata. To understand whether or not All Might developed his own quirk factor, we need to understand how the consciousness remains from previous users of one for all. A long time ago, All for One forced the quirk on his younger brother Yoichi. This quirk enables him to store powers in his body. However, Yoichi already had his own quirk, with the power to transfer his quirk to another person. The power stockpiling quirk allows quirks and power to be stored, while the transfer quirk allows the quirks to be transferred altogether. While one for all is viewed as one single quirk, it is actually not just one quirk, but a process where one quirk is used to store multiple quirks and physical strength, and the second is used to transfer all the quirks the current user has in store to the next person. The proof of this statement can be found in the concept of the vestiges of one for all. Due to the quirk factor, each quirk contains an echo of the consciousness of its user. So when the quirk of one person is transferred to another, the consciousness of the previous user will appear in the mind of the new user. Due to the fact that one for all fuses all quirk factors into one core, one for all carries the echoes of the consciousness of all previous users as long as they pass on their own quirk and therefore add their own quirk factor to the core of one for all. One for all has a kind of subconscious realm in which the previous users can manifest. Since quirks are engraved with the consciousness of their users, the consciousness of every user who has transmitted one for all alongside his own quirk is embedded in this subconscious realm. But for some reason, All Might is part of the vestiges of one for all, and this can only be possible if All Might has passed on his own quirk factor along with one for all. Before my partner Yami continues with the final part of this video, if you already like our content, please leave a like. It supports us a lot and it shows us your interest in our My Hero Academia content. And if you're new, you're welcome to subscribe with the notification bell activated. And now I give the mic to Yami.
But how can this be possible? We always assume that All Might never had any quirk and therefore no quirk factor. We actually got an explanation for this in the manga. After all, it is noticeable that the power stockpiling quirk has no consciousness in it, and neither did the first One For All user noticed any consciousness of a previous user of the power stockpiling quirk, nor did any other user of One For All. That is, the power stockpiling quirk was transferred without an initial quirk factor. This could be possible if, for example, two of All For One's quirks were combined to create a completely new quirk. It's a rare chance for two quirks to come together and form a new unique quirk, but it is still possible, especially when you consider that this could have come from someone like All For One who has so many quirks in his body. Or maybe All For One took this from a quirk of a newborn before it could have even developed their quirk factor. A quirkless vessel might not get a quirk without overflowing, and trying to force it anyway would result in a shortened lifespan, as experienced by the fourth user. But All Might maintained One For All for over 40 years. It matched his previously empty vessel perfectly, and such, it really became his very own quirk. But this is impossible. One For All cannot become All Might's initial quirk, since One For All has quirk factors from several other people. But there is one quirk that is part of the quirk of One For All that has no specific quirk factor and no first user either, and that is the power stockpiling quirk, the same quirk that All Might has been using all along when he was the owner of One For All. And now it suddenly makes sense why All Might was able to use this powerful ability in which his power and speed has multiplied without suffering injuries like Deku. Part of the quirk factor is the physical part of a body that is used for the quirk and protects the body from damage that the quirk would do without such a defense. All Might developed this quirk factor for the power stockpiling quirk, which had all the physical strength that it had inherited from the previous owner, especially of the fourth user who spent half of his life with cultivating the strength of All For One. This is All Might's true and own quirk, and therefore he's the part of the West stages of One For All. We have more evidence to support this assumption. There are quirks that can directly damage a target's quirk factor and prevent the quirk from activating until the user recovers naturally. However, a quirk factor can be irreparably damaged, as a result of which the quirk is permanently inoperable or severely restricted in its use. A good example of this is when the USJ Nomu attacked Eraserhead, who therefore suffered great damage, especially his face and his head. This resulted in his quirk having a much shorter lifetime, as he had to blink more often due to the damages he took. In this case, the eyes are the physical part of the quirk factor of Eraserhead. If you consider that All Might really made the power stockpiling quirk his own, then he is the prime example for this phenomena, as he suffered a serious injury against All For One that almost destroyed his respiratory system and removed his stomach, and the after effects of the operations made his body weak, so that in the end he could only use One For All for about 3 hours a day. The fact that in the case of the power stockpiling quirk, the physical part of the quirk factor is All Might's body. This proves that All Might actually developed a quirk factor because he could no longer use the power stockpiling quirk properly after his body was permanently injured. In contrast to Deku, who can use One For All whenever he wants, no matter how badly his body is already damaged. Every time All Might overworked, the time he could use the quirk got shorter and shorter. This proves that All Might, unlike Deku, really has a quirk factor that protects All Might from dangerous quirk usage that would go beyond his physical limits. And this is where Eri comes in. Her quirk Rewind gives Eri the ability to restore a living being's body to an earlier state. Those who are near Eri at the moment of the activation begin to develop their body back into previous physical states, thereby undoing or bringing back injuries or modifications from the present or the past. Kaichisaki even said that this quirk can rewind genetics, which is the key point why All Might can get the stockpiling quirk power back if if Eri rewinded his body. This is because one for all current user passes their DNA onto the next user and thereby apparently losing their own quirk, since their quirk factor is basically deleted from their genetic code and passed on to the next user. So if Eri can rewind the genetics, then she will be able to rewind All Might's body to a state it was before he was first injured. All Might can't get one for all back. This quirk now belongs to Deku, but All Might can really get the power stockpiling quirk back, which is the quirk he has been using all the time and for which he has developed his own quirk factors, enabling him to become part of the stages of One for All. You might think that this would make it too easy for the heroes if Horikoshi will give All Might his power back, but you shouldn't forget that Deku's current potential is already much greater than that of All Might in his prime, which means that All for One must have gotten much stronger too, or at least is about to become much stronger. Otherwise, Deku wouldn't have any problem defeating All for One, which simply cannot be the case. All Might could ask Eri to use her rewind quirk on him because he wants to test whether he actually made the power stockpiling quirk his own, since All Might found out from previous users that there were stages in the realm of the consciousness of All for One can only be manifested after adding their own quirk factors to the core of One for All. He was very surprised to find out that he was one of the stages too. This shows that this aspect is very important for the story, and that All Might must also have developed a quirk factor. After seeing what Eri did to Mirio, the idea might occur to him that the same thing could work with him and the power stockpiling quirk. What do you guys think of our theory? Do you think All Might can make a comeback? Let us know in the comments below. And if you liked our video, make sure you smash the like button. And if you are new to our channel and enjoy our content, make sure you subscribe with the notification bell turned on. It will really help us to reach out a bigger audience in the future. So that's it for today, folks. See you guys in the next video. Yami out.